Have you ever wondered how you got stuck in the rat race and now you feel that you've never got time, you're not going to get out of it? In that relentless hustle of that rat race, it's so easy to find ourselves trapped in toxic work environments and daily grind, also in our personal life, losing sight of our true passions, really. Many individuals do that, unknowingly prioritizing demands that are really not giving them the pleasure of life and work. So even wanting to write a book, dreaming, but that rat race is holding people back. If that is you, hello and welcome. I have asked Carolina Becker to get tonight again along to share her insights on this topic with us. You see, Carolina is the rat race recovery coach. She's helping people to get out of that constant rush. And I want to draw on her, hello, Carolina, on your experience and expertise on this topic, because this is something that holds so many people back from getting started. Now, I am 𝐠𝐫𝐚𝐧𝐝, high impact, high profit, marketing optimized book writing and publishing specialist. Carolina, let's go. Hello.
Good morning for me. Good morning. Good evening for you. And good morning, evening, afternoon for wherever people are looking at this over the world.
It's really good, isn't it, that we are connecting and speaking across the world. Now, the rat race, Carolina, it happens to all types of people in all sorts of work and life situations, or are there very particular, like certain type of people only that experience that? Take us into the topic.
It happens to all of us, but not continuously. So everybody has rat race moments in their life. And when all those moments sort of stitch together and become one big moment, that's when you are truly very deep in. But everybody recognizes these moments when you're in, like you wake up in the morning, you immediately, the first beep on your phone is already going, you get your phone, you see an email or a text message, you think, oh, I need to do something with that. And you start working immediately in bed still. Or you look at your social media and there's a little message that you want to, a little like that you want to do. And even before you got out of bed and even before you got in the shower, you have already started your rush. And very often what happens is you take 2 minutes too much, right? And you start your day in this, oh, I'm late. And that moment doesn't leave you anymore. So throughout your entire day, you keep on feeling like you are late. And so I think, if I'm honest, everybody can recognize that. And then, of course, there's people that recognize that and have it every day, like me, like I used to be. So I recognize the feeling very well. And when all those days piled up and that rush becomes your sort of, how do you call that, modus operandi, your status quo, your day-to-day life, then you will at some point, you will experience it physically, you will experience it mentally, and it will start weighing heavy on you. And so, yes, sorry, a cat. So yes, I think everybody has these days.
Having this feeling of rat race. Now, I'm not quite sure where that term rat race came from. I was sort of more thinking on people on a hamster wheel. That was sort of more a descriptive terminology that I was used to. That rat race is, what is it? They're sort of in a maze and going round and round. Is that where that came from? Do you know?
Yes, I do. So the term rat race comes from, there were scientists that it's literally from lab rats. And they were put in a maze. And the first couple of times there was a cheese somewhere in the maze. And so the rats found the cheese and they thought, okay, yay, I have this cheese. And now next time I'm going to be in this maze, I'll get that cheese again. And that's just, sometimes the scientists would put the cheese in and sometimes the scientist wouldn't. And it doesn't matter if the cheese was there or not, if the smell of the cheese was there or not. The moment the rats were put in the maze, they started running. They started running through that labyrinth, trying to find this either achievable cheese or a cheese that wasn't even there. And that's the rat race for all of us, right? It's that we are chasing an ideal, we are chasing something that very often is conditioned in us, that we don't know if it's actually going to be there, but we just keep on running anyway, to make sure that we at least have a chance of getting it. So it all comes from a lab experience, lab experiment, I should say. And so the term rat race is exactly that. Rats just running around without knowing if they ever get to their actual goal.
So when we think of that now in ourselves and in our lives, I mean, that's actually quite sad. It's funny when you think about, this running around, little feet everywhere, trying to find the cheese, and there isn't actually any cheese, just the smell of it. We're doing that. We're chasing the dollar or whatever we're chasing to get to the next thing. And we for whatever reason, it's going to be very difficult to get there because we haven't got, from my perspective, Carolina, in that area of writing a book, from my perspective, when people sort of chase around trying to find, where do I get started? What do I do? Motivation is the thing I need, maybe a buddy who's going to hold me to accountability. All of those things are in a way a rat race because they're not starting with a plan, is what I'm thinking. How does that relate to the rat race? People thinking they are in this rat race and they're running. Is having a plan helpful, or what is it that you see for people to get out of that rat race?
So what happens, of course, is that it's one day in our lives we got the question. Almost everybody got the question, what are you going to be when you grow up? They asked it in school, teachers asked that question, right? And you said, well, I'm going to be, I don't know, let's say you were going to be a veterinarian. And you were 8 years old and you said that to everybody, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be a veterinarian. School thinks you're going to be a veterinarian. So at the age of 8, you sort of semi-decide that. But how much can a child of 8 years old really decide? And throughout your life, people keep reminding you of the fact that you wanted to become a veterinarian. And at some point, you are no longer aligned with becoming a veterinarian. You might want to become a police officer. And yet, everybody keeps on reminding you that you wanted to become a veterinarian. And so this goal of becoming a police officer is sort of, you sort of push it to the side because you have been conditioned to believe that your goal is becoming a veterinarian. And so that is really what people are doing. We are setting a goal and we are so attached to that goal that we stop looking if that's still the really ultimate goal that we want to have. And then besides from that, we are learning to run towards, in a specific route through that labyrinth, in a specific route through that maze, to a goal that might not be our ideal goal anymore. And so the conditioning is more the running so we have a plan, we're following the plan, but is the plan, the actual plan, still the plan that we want today? Or is it a plan that we put in place 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or even 1 year ago, that today is going to bring us to a goal that when we reach that goal, we think, okay, I really didn't want this as much as I thought I would.
That is so true. And I can say that for myself too. For example, I had this idea of becoming an air hostess when I was about 8 years old. I thought, oh, that's a cool job to take. And I got reminded of that later on. And I couldn't because in those days you had to have a certain height, which I didn't reach. I was a bit too short. But what I find is really great, and yet it seems that people are not realizing that. You just touched on that by saying that, that might not be the goal anymore to pursue, and then they stay in this sort of rat race to chase something that they thought they would or want, and they don't go for something new or better. In years and days gone by, it was normal. You stayed in that one lane. You would not veer off into any other lane to explore something new and different, to do something that really was at your heart. You wouldn't do that, but you have that opportunity today. What is it that's holding people back and staying in this rat race for so much longer than they really need to, because the opportunities are there? Carolina, is that conditioning? What is it? Share that, please.
It's conditioning, partially. It's also the cat again. Sorry. He's really enthusiastic this morning. So it is conditioning, but it's also partially something that we do to ourselves. We make a certain goal part of our identity. So we say to ourselves, well, if I reach that goal, I will be a better person. I will be a happier person. I will be and we put all these labels on reaching that goal. And so because we do that, we never really think, because we have this, it's like a carrot dangling in front of a donkey. We can see it, we can pinpoint that we want to go there, and so we just go. And it's part of that is that identity versus behavior is really, if you don't reassess whether you still want to be that person that has that specific goal reached before you get happy, then it becomes a rat race where you're just blindfolded, basically.
So moving out of that seems to be, it's almost like we're boxed into something in a way, with not being able to get out and doing the same. So if that is conditioning, trying to reach a goal that is perhaps not even there anymore, just relating that to people wanting to write a book very quickly, for example, they want to, but they have this, in my opinion, I would call this the rat race, this thinking that, no, I can't, I don't have time, it takes too long. So where's the switch here? Can people do that themselves? Do they need help to get out of that, to switch away from this conditioning that probably most of us have, I think, is what I understood you said a bit earlier?
People can definitely move out of this themselves. I personally, I personally moved out of this myself. I found that, so I was in this rat race for a very, very long time. I did exactly what was expected of me. I studied all these things that I now really don't use in my work. I of course have that experience, so I'm very grateful that I studied all the things that I studied. But today I'm an IT engineer by trade. I also studied medicine. So I love that I can build my own website, but I ran towards an IT job that really wasn't my biggest strength. And I felt like I had to finish. So I finished my studies. I became an engineer, and then I was in this world of IT engineering, and I really didn't like to program and to sit behind a computer the entire day. And so for years I tried to attain that goal, and then I was in a job, and I was praised for all those things that were the rat race. I climbed up in the corporate world, right? And I was praised for working such long hours. I was praised for finishing that final thing that needed to be finished before Monday. I was praised for sacrificing my own time, my own social life, my own peace of mind. And I got to the point where I couldn't wind down anymore. Because the rat race for me was this constant rush. I mean, the reason I can describe that so well, that being on your phone in the morning, etc., is because I was there very clearly. I mean, so that unobtainable, that rhythm is something that the first step of everything you want to change is awareness and acknowledgement. It's becoming aware that you are in it and that you want change, acknowledging that, okay, this is not what I truly want. Now that's really overwhelming. I remember for me, the moment I realized I was in a life, I can still get emotional about it. The moment I realized that I was in a life that I didn't want and that I wasn't willing to follow, and that actually the moment I realized that if I would do this, what I did, for another year, I would probably fall over. That was a very overwhelming moment, because suddenly your entire life is like, okay, if it's not this that I want, if it's not this basically perfect life, right? I had the perfect life. I had a social life. I had a nice house. I had a nice job. Everything was, from the outside, everything was perfect. And so as long as I kept myself thinking that everything was perfect, I didn't have to deal with change. The moment I realized, okay, I cannot do this any longer, that was the moment when I needed to admit to myself that this wasn't the life that I was supposed to go through.
Carolina, this awareness and this acknowledgement, or this awareness in the first place, do people come to that generally? Is it like life happening, some sort of jolt happening that I'm sure some people do, but is it also that sometimes it's just enough is enough kind of a thinking, or is it always a real jolting trigger moment in your experience working with clients in that area? What can you share there?
What I see there is it's not a jolting, it's not a power struck moment. No, it's not a lightning bulb striking and suddenly it's a buildup of little moments. It's you feel that perfectionism is is getting the overhand. You are no longer doing things right. You have to do things absolutely perfect. That's one of them, and it makes you uncomfortable. You have that imposter syndrome every time you walk into a meeting, and that's another drop in the bucket. And then you have stress, and that's another drop in the bucket. You find that you, in the morning when you wake up, that you're really not ready to wake up yet, not because of your physical appearance, not because of your body that doesn't want to wake up, but because your mind is still. And you find that you wake up at night because because you're stressed. Let me finish the sentence. Because you're stressed, you find that you worry a lot. All these things, they start out as individual little things that you have sometimes, and then they pile up. And all those little drops, at some point they reach a point where there is a realization, hey, something is not right, or your body starts to complain. You get a shoulder pain, you get a stomach pain, you stop processing your food very well. Your body will tell you as well when it's simply time to stop.
And that's an important realization, that when things physically, health-wise, are niggling and starting to go wrong or in the wrong direction, that we should stop and think what's going on. And yet, being in the rat race can make us unconsciously prioritizing this hustle and the toxicity, because we're kind of used to it. Is that what it is? Would you say we're used to it? It's safe to stay in that. So even though, something might be knocking on the door of our body, somehow we might not realize it straight away.
Yes. So I always say to people, your comfort zone is not the zone where you are comfortable. That's right. It's not. Your comfort zone can be simply what you were taught is you are supposed to accept. So I've seen people that are in very toxic work environments, very, very toxic, constant bullying, and they think it's normal. They think that the microaggression and the nasty remarks and the always being passed over for a promotion, that's normal, and it's not. But it's what we're used to, so we stay into it because we think there is no other way, because we don't realize that there is. So yeah.
Carolina, is there a difference? Sorry to jump in. You've just said something that triggered a thought for me. Is there a difference between thinking, being in this toxicity, in this rat race scenario, thinking that's normal? Is there a difference to with the fear factor at the back of it? We also have the situation where somebody stays in something or with somebody for fear. Is that a factor in this rat race scenario as well, or is that separate?
I think it is. Very good question. Thank you. Absolutely. I think there is a fear factor. Depending on where in the journey you are, the fear goes from the unconscious fear, where you don't realize you have it, but it is influencing your decisions. And that's like the survival mechanism. I cannot leave this job because I have to pay for my house. And it's in the back of your head. It's like something that you know is there, but you haven't consciously thought it. And then there's this moment when you exactly that moment where you say, okay, this is not how I want to continue. So now what? And then those fears come to the foreground. Whenever somebody asks, okay, if you don't want to do this, then what do you want to do? And then these fears come up saying, oh, but wait, I cannot leave my job because I have a house. And what a lot of people don't realize is that they have a lot more control than they think in the job that they are already doing. So getting out of the rat race doesn't mean necessarily getting out of the corporate environment or the job or the business that you are currently in. It's dealing with the situations in a different way and finding quick wins in those situations where all that rat race and all that toxicity doesn't affect you as much as it would normally do, like before you were aware.
So when you get that awareness of what is actually happening and you acknowledge that it is there and you feel that, okay, it's really not what I want. However, the job I'm in at the moment is really serving me well, maybe on a financial level or maybe on a location level, something like that. And you're not quite ready to just jump off the ship and go somewhere else because you know that that might be tricky, but you really are aware of your situation, that you are in this rat race daily doing the same. It's a real grind for you. Would one first step perhaps in the job, for example, that you are in, would that be to create a kind of a confidence from within to start naming things a bit more direct? I do see sometimes in social media, especially women commenting about, oh, this person did this, and I expected them not to. At work, they did this and said this, and I expected them not to. You see, expectations are here. They're not over there with the other person. Is that an issue in the scenario of staying in this rat race?
Actually, that's, I think, part of the solution.
Oh, good.
But it's coming back, I think, to the stories that we tell ourselves. So there's, of course, an expectation, but an expectation is indeed, like you mentioned, it's something that we put on our outer world. And where people really suffer is where reality and expectations do not meet. If that's it's the gap in between those things. Now in those situations where something is happening that you disagree with, there you can have several responses. You can either look outside and say, okay, this is I'm going to how would I say that? Let me think for a moment. So you can either look at outside and you say, people are doing this to me, but if you do that, you're giving away your power. You're letting people control when you are happy and when you are not. And so the first step really is to take back that control and say, you cannot make me anything. You cannot make me sad. You cannot make me angry. You cannot make me anything. I am responsible and I want to have control over my own emotions and I want to have control over my own thoughts. So that's one. And so, yeah, it's a, yes. And so the second level would be that you look at yourself and say, hey, what am I feeling? And what am I suppressing? Because I don't want to feel that. But be curious. What is it really telling me? What gap is it? Is this emotion? I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling stressed. What is my body and my mind trying to tell me? What is that gap that in between those expectations and that the reality? That are my expectations off? Or is my reality off? And then there you have a choice. If there's a gap and you say, okay, expectations and reality does not meet, then you can adjust your reality, which for a lot of people is a lot harder, or you can adjust your expectations and take actions on step by step, little by little, adjusting not only your expectations, but also the expectations that people have from you, that people put on you, and adjusting their expectations so that you don't have to tell them over and over and over again that this is not something you like to do. You know, there's always a job, especially if it's demanding, it will always have moments that it requires you to do more than what you feel you're capable of in terms of time, in terms of energy. And managing those expectations for yourself by not overloading yourself and having the power and the inner control to gently and kindly say, I'm sorry, I cannot do that at the moment. I cannot, this piece of work is on top of everything else is I cannot take that on. That closes a lot of the gap, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
emotional
think
stress. Sorry.
there's so much to dig into, and as always, time flies so quickly. So let me do a quick summary of what we have shared, particularly what you have shared, and then add to it if there is something to add to it, or if you have a final comment to it. So we've talked in particular today on the topic of the rat race. Getting stuck in this rat race and feeling that, you know, you've never got time, you can't get out of it. The first step is really to realize that there is a rat race you are in, and you can, with that awareness, already acknowledge and take the first few steps. If there are big demands on you constantly, instead of leaving that hanging in the air as expectations that you feel you have to fulfill, speak up about it gently, kindly, if that is more your way, and say, oh, I cannot do that just now, maybe later, maybe another time. That would be one way of going about it. Really don't give away your power. It is your power. When somebody else demands something, it's for you to stand up for your own, what you wish to do or not to do. And you can change direction anytime in life, especially in the environments we are in today. That first moment of fear, overcome that by taking, maybe my way would be a big breath and thinking, what can I do? So really gently unraveling it and listening to yourself on the inside before, from this terrible race, every time physical ailments start popping up and you don't even realize that that physical unwellness is actually related to your whole mind being in this pressurized rat race, run, 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 find the cheese, and it's not even there. Have you got something to add to that, Carolina, that I might have missed?
Well, maybe I can give a little exercise that actually has to do with writing.
Right.
I would like to connect those two dots.
Fantastic.
So when a lot of distress comes from an overloaded social life, calendar, tasks, overloaded computer, overloaded desk, overloaded everything. And so an exercise that people can do to start slowly moving away from this is and when we're in the time of the year anyway, is do a spring cleaning. And with a spring cleaning, of course, it's also the cleaning up your space. So if people are sitting in their office right now watching this, look around in your room. How many things do you have in front of you that are messing up your field? Because your brain will pick up each and every little item. It will constantly monitor your environment. I mean, I have two cats. As you may have noticed, they were moving around in the image. I have two cats, and they're here in my image. And it's harder for me to concentrate. Not that I'm not concentrating. I'm used to these two being, messing up my environment, so it's okay. The more things you can clean up in your line of sight, the calmer your mind will be. So the exercise, I would think, do a spring cleaning on your desk and move stuff away from there. Do a spring cleaning of your calendar and make choices of what you would like to keep and what you would like to what you can, if possible, remove. All those meetings that you really are not really required to be in. And then a third thing, clear out your mind. And a great way to clear out your mind is to journal at the end of the day and find yourself 3 things that you did today that you could have not done. 3 things that you say, well, if I wouldn't have done that, it wouldn't have made a difference now where I am in my progress, but it would have made a difference for my mind. It would have made a difference in the peace of mind that I would have had now, because it would have given me back 30 minutes if I wouldn't have done those 3 things. Write them down, and you will start to see patterns. And so writing things down is, well, as you know, Sigrid, writing things down, it gives you a record, it gives you something to analyze. So get it out of your brain and get it on paper.
That is a really great analogy for people writing their book. I often hear, how do I get it out of my head and onto the page? You know, that is the difficulty. So this exercise at the end of the day is an excellent exercise to prepare yourself if you are thinking of writing a book at some point in time, or you're almost there and you don't know how to. Take it out of your head, put it onto the page, and think about this particular way of, you know, what are 3 things I did that perhaps prevented me from doing something else that I could be doing differently. Excellent, Carolina. I thank you for all your insights again today. As I said, time is always not on our side because we have so many things to talk about. We will be back again. Now, Carolina, people can connect with you. Tell us how to connect with you to either ask more questions or to be connected in the first place, or to do some work with you. What's the best way?
Okay, so I am mostly active on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn profile. There is a button where you can book a 15-minute coffee with me. And for more inspirational videos, and this one is going to be on there, of course, as well. I have a YouTube channel, which is @Coaching by Carolina. And I would love for people to subscribe.
Fantastic. Very good. There you heard it right here today. And signing off, Carolina Becker and Sigrid de Kaas, book writing, publishing, and marketing specialist. You have me on LinkedIn as well. Book an appointment, have a chat with me around book writing if you wish, or send me a message. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again another time. Bye-bye.